parents of an Israeli-American soldier killed by Hamas are pleading, and that is the proper word, pleading for a ceasefire in Gaza and the release of their son's body, which is still being held by Hamas.
We cannot accept a future in which our loved ones, our children, are left behind in Gaza. We need a deal not only for the living, but also for the deceased, for the chance to say goodbye, for the basic dignity of bringing them home.
Here are the outlines of this story. 21-year-old Omer Neutra served as a tank platoon commander in the Israeli Defense Forces. After the October 7th attack, he was believed to be held in captivity until Israeli officials announced last year he was killed fighting Hamas militants during that massacre. His parents, Ronen and Orna Neutra, join me now. Thank you for coming in. I know it's been a very long day here in Washington, D.C. We'll get to the things you're pleading for in a moment, but the first questions I have for you are these, and they're very simple. How are you? And what do you want my audience to know about your son?
We're exhausted. You know, for us, this whole thing started on October 7th, which is 21 months ago. And we've been in a prolonged terrorist attack ever since. You mentioned that our son is no longer alive, but we did not know that for 421 days. And the fact that we do know that is not because Hamas shared that information, but because there was new intelligence that was picked up. So Hamas is not only holding on to live hostages, they're holding on to deceased hostages and using them as bargaining chips and to terrorize the families. So we're exhausted.
What do you want my audience to know about Omer?
Omer is an all-American kid, born and raised on Long Island. He was actually born in Manhattan shortly after 9/11. Orna was pregnant. She had to cross the bridge, 9 months pregnant on 9/11. And little did we know that 20-some years later, Omer will be involved in the biggest terror attack on Israel. Just shows you the connection between United States and Israel. And he's just a fun, loving person, a leader everywhere he goes. He was the captain of his volleyball, basketball, and soccer teams in school. He was the head of his youth group in Metro New York. He was just a fun person that led people by example. And age 19, he went to Israel, even though he was accepted to college in Binghamton University, upstate New York. He went to Israel for a gap year. He fell in love with the people, knowing his heritage, where both our parents are Holocaust survivors. And he just heard his calling, and he decided to enlist to the IDF to do the right thing for Israel, to defend it. And of course...
Did you have any misgivings about that at the time?
You know, we had mixed feelings, for sure. On the one hand, we understood where he's coming from. We have a very big family in Israel. We're part of a very warm Jewish community. And he grew up, like Ronen said, knowing that Israel needs to be protected. And he felt the calling. We were proud of him, but we were also concerned. Of course, you know, it's military service. But no one could have imagined the way this has been played out.
You are, like many families, similarly situated, terrorized, grief-stricken, but also trying to operate in a political space in which you have very little influence. You have your voice. What are you trying to persuade the Israeli Prime Minister, Netanyahu, and the American President, President Trump?
That it's time, that it's urgent. You know, we've been living in New York. We knew immediately when the war broke that we have a role. And our role was to do whatever we can here in the United States. And Secretary Blinken at the time heard from us the day after the attack. There are Americans, we didn't know the extent of the attack, but later on we learned 45 Americans were murdered on October 7th. Not too many people know it. And 12 Americans were kidnapped. And we started to go to the White House and to Congress and plead. Put the pressure on the Qataris, on the Egyptians, on the Turks, and work a deal between Hamas and Israel to bring out hostages. And to date, out of the 251 that were hostages, 200 almost came back. 50 still in captivity, almost 2 years later. 20 of them considered alive, and 30 among them our son considered deceased. It has to end. And I think the most important element that we're trying to tell everybody is that there will not be any peace in the Middle East unless those hostages start to come out. This is the key to unlock the situation in the Middle East, and a lot has changed.
And who is the key to the key, Netanyahu or Trump?
Well, you know, Netanyahu is a party in this. Hamas is a party in this, and we have the mediators, right? The United States is acting as a mediator here. So I think President Trump has showed that he can change things in the Middle East since he got elected. 33 hostages were released. And we have a lot of trust and belief that he can bring all the parties to the table and to make this happen and to bring this to an end.
There was reporting a couple of weeks ago in the New York Times Sunday magazine, extensive reporting, that the Israeli Prime Minister had prolonged the war, even though there were opportunities to have hostages exchange and a ceasefire achieved. And part of that reporting suggests a very strong motive for the Prime Minister was politics, maintaining his coalition government. How do you evaluate that reporting?
Well, unfortunately, I think we experienced it. Actually, a year ago exactly, we were invited by President Biden to be present in a cabinet meeting, in the cabinet room, together with Prime Minister Netanyahu, few families, and President Biden. And at the time, we told Prime Minister, your army apparatus are saying that the conditions have matured to reach a deal. Everybody is saying it in Israel. Why aren't you reaching a deal? And his answer was, so they say. At the time, he didn't think so, and that's the right conditions either for the country or for him. And there was not enough pressure from President Biden at the time or enough leverage to make him move forward. I think today, the situation has dramatically changed. Obviously, with Iran, Hezbollah, Lebanon, Syria, everything in the region has changed, but also the fact that President Trump is there and demands and puts, I think we're coming very short to a deadline. This war needs to end, and these hostages must come back. And Prime Minister Netanyahu reads the map, I think, and we are hearing that now he's motivated to reach a deal. Unfortunately, this is 650 days plus, and it's very difficult for the families. And we lost 40 hostages that died in captivity, 40 of them.
This will sound simplistic, but I mean it with everything. I wish you the best. I wish you peace.
Amen. To the whole region.
Ronen,
Thank you.
Orna,
I think the whole region is waiting for this.
Thank you.
Thank you very
much.
much.
I appreciate it.